We on!
Yo, what's up, everybody? It's your boy DJ Noble. Welcome to another episode of Off the Grid. I got a couple of guests with me today to talk about faith in sports. Go ahead, fellas, introduce yourself. Let's start with
Hey,
you,
what's
Ronald.
up? Ronald Moore, Pittsburgh State University. Spencer, Oklahoma is where I live now. So just a good old country boy, loving life.
Ed Jones, originally from Houston, Texas, but I reside in Kansas City, Missouri. Excited to be here.
Let's go, fellas. Glad to have you on the show, man. I'm really excited about this and very appreciative. So thanks again. But if you could tell us a little bit about your career and where you're at right now. So Ed, we'll start with you.
Yeah, from Houston, Texas. My career ended a lot earlier than Ronald's did. High school, I wouldn't call myself a high school project. I was pretty good. But went to school. I knew I wanted to study sports, so started high school coaching for 6 years at a school in Northwest Houston, and then got 3 years in my alma mater. Helped 50 kids get college scholarships, which I'm always happy. I didn't get the scholarship, but they did. And so I had opportunity one day. I was doing a recruiting pitch with Tom Herman, who's the head coach of my alma mater, University of Houston. And he said, "I'm not here for these kids. I want to hire you." I was like, "Oh, okay." So did an interview. He hired me about a month later. I was a director of player development and high school relations at the University of Houston for 3 years. I was at the University of Kansas for 2 years, and then I did 1 year at Baylor University. Transition after that, and now in between it, I founded the Beyond the Field company, as you can see right here, where we develop people and elevate programs. And I have a podcast, I got blogs, and I got a book that just came out, The Player Development Guide. Shameless plug. You can find it on Amazon. There it is. Yeah. So, but I'm really passionate about developing athletes off the field. I think a lot of coaches have plans. A lot of people want to do it, or a lot of people say they want to do it, but do people have plans? And so I help people find those plans. So that's me in a nutshell.
Yeah, of course, man. I'm Ronald Moore, and from Spencer, Oklahoma, born and raised. Went to Pittsburgh State University, played there for 4 years, won a national championship. We were just talking about it. Had the opportunity to play in the NFL for 7 years. Probably had the most success out in Arizona with the Cardinals. But I played with the Cardinals, the Jets, and with the Miami Dolphins in 98, 99. And then after that, actually went back and finished my degree at Pittsburgh State. But now I'm back at home, and I pastor the church where I grew up. And so now I'm just trying to make sure that I do all I can to pour into young men the same way that older men poured into me as I was growing up. So that's me all day long.
That's good, man. That's good. Actually, I don't know if I've ever told you in particular, but you helped my, I guess, for lack of a better word, salvation process. You were very instrumental in doing that, man. So
Really?
I remember going to FCA, and they let you grab the mic, man. Like, I guess you had that type of influence, man, that people actually listen to you, huh? So I remember those times, man. It's a long story, man. I could get into it on another day, maybe in another setting. But yeah, it's definitely, I definitely contribute some of the things that you did that went toward my decision to accept Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior.
Well, amen. Good.
Just had to drop that on you real quick, before we get started.
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, fellas, why do you love sports?
That's a good. I mean,
How can you not love sports? First of all, everybody who's a true competitor, if you're a true competitor, you love the game that you play. And so for me, I was originally a wrestler, and I love just the one-on-one combat, the thought process, the mental toughness that it developed in me. And it provided me with an outlet for all of the youthful anger that I had. It gave me a place to direct it and channel it. And I love sports because it helped shape and mold me, and it got me away from the farm. That's it.
That's a good reason.
Yeah, for me, grew up in a family of 5, and my brother's 7 years older than me, so I was like his little competitor. So I had to get good really quick, right? But for me, it's always, I didn't have a brother my age. And so sports always got me to be close to my cousins, neighbors, teammates. So it's just that bond that I always like. I like the competitive aspect too. I like to win. I love coming together and win. I love being a piece of the puzzle. I would never call myself like the person that I go get 25 points and all that every night, 30 points a night. But if you need a good use, some picks, some hustles, and all 6 fouls, that's me. So I like sports for that.
That's cool, man. I'll tell you a quick story, man. I was the best player on my baseball team my last year playing Legion ball. So I was 18 years old. Best player on the team, right? You know what our record was? It was 0-20. That shows you what kind of athlete I really was. How bad of a team it was. Like, if I was the best player on the team, that was trouble.
Self-awareness is the best awareness. I played D-line. I played D-tackle, and the guy in front of me, he was a grade in front of me, playing D-tackle. He was the anchor of our 4x1 team. I was like, yeah, coach, whatever plays he makes, I'm not making them.
Oh my gosh. All right, who are some of your favorite pro athletes of all time and why? That's the one to think about, huh?
Yeah.
Well, no, it's right off the bat. My all-time favorite, of course, is Walter Payton for obvious reasons. You know, living in Oklahoma, we didn't see a lot of Chicago, only when they played the Dallas Cowboys or the Houston Oilers back in the day. And so just who he was, how he played, the way he attacked defenses and his tenacity. And then later on in life, get a chance to meet him, he really solidified who I thought he was. He was all in and something. So he was just an incredible human being. And, you know, him knowing my name, walking up to me in the locker room and shaking my hand and knowing my name was mind-blowing. So he was always my favorite. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, mine's Akeem Olajuwon, the connection to Houston Rockets, University of Houston. Just growing up, seeing him play as a kid, getting to watch, to me, I'm biased, but, you know, the best center ever, every single game. And then what I loved about him is he just played so hard, and he was just he did so many things. So he can give you 30, he could block 6, he can get 6 steals, he can give you 14, 15 rebounds, he could guard off the pick and roll. He was just one of the best athletes ever. I think he's an underrated superstar. But yeah, growing up as Akeem Olajuwon, I had his shoes. I literally wore his shoes till the sole was out. Water was getting on my socks. My mom was like, "You got to get new shoes." So Akeem Olajuwon was my favorite all-time athlete.
Oh, that's cool, man. That's cool. Well, I'm glad. I bet you're glad, I should say, that Michael Jordan loved baseball.
So here's the deal. I've had this conversation. I think the Rockets would have won one of them. I really do. Honestly, I won't say 2. I'm not going to go there. But I think they would have got 1. And I just don't know if it would have been the team before Clyde Drexler or the team after with Clyde Drexler. But they would have got 1 because – and I know the regular season doesn't mean anything in the playoffs, but like we had their number. And Michael Jordan has been on record. Now, I don't know how we would have stopped him, but he's been on record saying they had no answer in the city of Chicago or the state of Illinois for Akeem Olajuwon. So I think we would have won 1. I think we would have won 1.
Yeah, you had the chance. I mean, why not, right? It's fun to dream.
Yeah. I was hurt when they traded all our role players to Charles Barkley. That one hurt.
Yeah. Did you hear what I said, Ronald? I said about the dream.
Yeah, we can always.
It's good to dream.
You can dream.
Some say.
You know I'm a poet, right?
Yeah. Some say that Mike picked up baseball because he knew for 2 years that rocket was lifting off, and so he said, "Hey, let me go play baseball."
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious, man.
The little guard that played for the Rockets that would always guard Jordan.
It's Vernon, right?
Podcast.
Vernon Maxwell.
Vernon Maxwell.
Yeah, Maxwell. Yeah, he talks about the challenge that Jordan presented, how tough he was. I enjoy that. Yeah.
Absolutely. So as a believer in Christ, what are some of the success stories that you've had You know, because being an athlete, I'm sure people were looking at you, right? Knowing that you were a believer, knowing that you were a Christian. And I'm sure there was some challenges with that as well. And we'll kind of get into those later. But what's some of the success stories that you've had as being a believer in people watching and observing you?
For me, is the validation from your peers. You know, we in Arizona, we started I started a Bible study at my house, and it grew, and it became. It lasted even after I was traded away. You know, guys would tell me how much that the Bible study had grown, and so that was one of the biggest success stories for me. Is just having an impact on the guys around me because they knew me better than most. We were together all day, just about every day. We had road trips. You know, they saw the best and the worst, but yet and still I was able to provide a positive influence, especially for the cause of Christ. And so that Bible study growing and being stable and having some longevity was probably the biggest thing that I ever accomplished as a professional athlete. So.
I like that. Mine was my senior year, going to my senior year. We had a new defensive coordinator, and I was a guy. Once again, like I said, the guy in front of me ran anchor or the 4x1. So what kept me on the field was knowing the entire defense. And so in spring camp, here I am playing nose guard at the time, and he calls a cornerback blitz, and I'm saying, "Hey, coach, you got to call a color because the safety's nobody's gonna cover the blitz." He's like, "Oh, here we go. We got a nose guard telling me what to do," and he didn't call the color, and the offense scored a touchdown. And so that senior year was tough, and it was tough because I was the guy who played in front of me. He literally told me to lock him. He's like, "Bro, you should start." I said, "Hey, bro, we're on the team. You're my boy. I'm gonna get my clock. We're gonna run. We're gonna 1A, 1B it." And so I just remember the first game I was running with the twos all spring. He comes out and he picks the third guy to go in, the 3 nose guard. And I'm like, "Yo, what?" And even the head coach was shocked. And so I had a conversation with my mom and my parents. My dad is old East Texas country, like, "Nah, son, show up," you know. And my mom kept telling me, "Only what you do for Christ will last." And so that was tough. That was tough at 17 years old, having to show up, and you should be like, this is how crazy it was. I literally, the one game I started my senior year, I'll never forget. I was walking in the Bible study, and I just had this assurance. It felt like God was telling me, "You're going to start. Be prepared. You're going to start." And I'm like, okay, sweet. This is Tuesday, right? So we get to Friday. And then I have a great game. I grade out as one of the better defensive players on the team. Not only D-line, but the whole game. We win a big rivalry game, and I don't play the next week. So wow. It was just man. So dealing with that, I think it helped my teammates. And even now that coach has came back and told me, man, your toughness. I learned so much of you just showing up. And so it sucked when you're 17 years old. But I would say in my short career, being in that locker room and showing up and having energy and cheering my guys on, they still love me for that. And they asked me, how did I do that? And the only way I could point to is Christ, or only person I can point to. So
yeah, that's cool, man. That's cool. What are some of the regrets that you guys have? We can start with you, Ed.
Yeah,
just jump back to you.
Yeah, so as much as I talk about how I wasn't the superstar, I actually was a good player, and I didn't understand my coaches were setting me up. So going into my freshman year, they pulled us up for the playoffs. And we got a chance to practice. We didn't play because we were freshmen and we had a loaded team, but we got eliminated by Vince Young, and I got to see how good he was. And I remember over the spring of my freshman year, I'm running with the ones. I'm running they're throwing me in. Some upperclassmen are mad, and the coach told me, he was like, "Hey Jones, you don't need to go to Dallas." I would go to Dallas to visit my family on my mom's side. He's like, "Can you please stay here?" He's like, I'm not trying to take your vacation away, but you're really growing. So I didn't do that. I went there, gained 30 pounds, and I failed off I played 2 games my entire sophomore year. Just being lazy in the classroom. And the way football works is sophomore year is kind of when you get film, and that's when the scouts start learning about you. But also it was a great opportunity to just play. And I could have helped my team out pretty well. And so that's part of it. As much as I can say the defensive coordinator, it's also the other side of me says, how can he trust me going to my junior year if I failed freshman year track and then sophomore year the entire football season? So the big regret I have there is, not pushing myself not only on the field, but off the field in the classroom, because I just messed up an incredible opportunity that could have at least got my school paid for, So that's a big regret for me.
Ronald, what's your regret?
I think, I really can't point to one thing. If I had a regret, my agent told me to hold out after my rookie year. And, for me, it was never about money being a professional athlete. It was literally living my dream. And I didn't hold out. And it probably cost me more time in Arizona. I wanted to stay in Arizona for the most part of my career. And so if I would have held that, I probably could have stayed in Arizona, 5 or 6 years instead of 3. So that's probably the only regret I have about anything, is not listening to somebody who had walked that road before me.
Right. Well, I don't know who knows, but I'm sure I know the people that know. You were all mad in that first year, right?
Yeah. It was a crazy year that year. Everything was going so fast, and success was happening so fast, and I don't know if I was ready to handle it at that level. Still really young and naive about a lot of things, and so. But yeah, I wish I would have listened. He knew. He had been down that road before, and really, man, if I was scared to hold out, I didn't. In today's terms, I didn't make a lot of money my rookie year, and I only had like 80 grand in the bank. I'm like, man, I didn't work it out, hold out, so I was scared, not really realizing, understanding that there are different ways that they could get me money, but. I was getting married too, so I got married after my first year, and going back to Phoenix with 80 grand in the bank and not playing did not look good to me. So I was like, nah, I can't do that. Going back. So
you also, if I remember right too, but you had a first round pick that same year, Garrison Hurst, who's coming back off an injury, right? Like if you hold out, you know what I mean, and he steps in, you might lose your job, right? I mean, there could have been some other factors.
Right. Well, back then, man, that was 93, so technology wasn't like it is right now. So he was still rehabbing for like the first 11 weeks of the season. And so my agent's thought was, you're going to be the only healthy running back. You just come off 1,000 yards. What are they going to do? They're going to have to pay you. I'm like, man, I don't know. We had a new coach. Buddy Ryan was the new coach. And I didn't know how they operated and all those kind of things. And so, like, no, I went on back in there. And sure enough, I became a casualty of war. Had another good year, and they traded me.
Yeah. Like, I was talking to somebody today, man, hindsight is 20/20, right? I mean,
absolutely.
You kind of learn from those, mistakes and regrets, and then kind of push on, right?
Yeah.
So how do you guys handle success, right? So you guys both have success in your life in different areas, whether it be on the field or coaching or wherever it may be, but how do you handle success?
Well, I think I learned early on as an athlete that success is fleeting. And so for me, I never got to the point where I thought I was really successful. So I would just always keep working for the next milestone. I may have had a good game last week. I may have had a good season last year, but that was last year. So it's always fleeting. There was a coach that told me one time, he said, son, don't you ever forget that they're always trying to replace you. And so I never thought of it as success. I just thought of it as just another goal to be achieved, something else to be accomplished. And I think that kept me pushing forward versus resting on what I had already done. So
yeah, I love that. Success, always thankful. Very thankful to God, of course, and just for the opportunity, but also want to highlight those that I do it with. So even recently I had a successful summit, and I spent a lot of time talking about the volunteers, the students, the brain tank, the speakers, the attendees, because it's not a success if these people don't show up. And so I understand that, I'm just a part of the success. I am learning to enjoy it for a little bit. Like, I think there's a 24-hour rule. Like when you win, it's like, hey, because I've been with coaches where we won. When I first started my high school coaching career, we won 2 games in 3 years. And then I get back to my alma mater and we're winning. And the head coach is like, it never felt like a win. And I had to tell him, coach, we won the game. Like, it's, you know what they say about film, it never looks as bad or as good as you think it is until you watch the film. And so I say, Coach, like let's enjoy it. Let's give our, you know, what looked good, Coach. You know, I learned this from Tom Herman. He would tell the offense coordinator, defense coordinator, special teams coordinator after every game had to, when we won, had to say who did a good job. And so what it did was it refocused the coordinator to focus on the good stuff. Like, and so I always took that with me, like, who did a great job? We'll figure it all out. It's going to get better. But for me, it's reminding it is a success, right? And thankful for the success. Thank God for the success, and then thank the people, and then enjoy it for a little bit. But as Pastor Moore said, I'm trying to, you know, I don't want to get tripped up by successes, you know, because they can be as damaging to people as failures if you don't handle it right.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So how do you handle adversity?
Prayer.
That's the only way.
You know, man.
So,
one of the things that being an athlete taught me is that adversity is a certain. You know, Coach Bros, when we were in Pittsburgh, he would always tell me that there's always going to be a fumble, an interception, a this and that. Something's going to happen, and you're going to have to face adversity, but it's not how you handle it, it's how you bounce back from it. So how do I handle it? I just keep coming. I know adversity is just a part of life. I know it's, you know, I'm going to have experienced death in my family. I'm going to experience bad days. I'm going to have a flat tire on the way to work. So those things are sure to happen, but how do we respond? You know, and a lot of people react instead of respond. So the way I've always handled adversity is just learn the right response. It's just reacting and losing my mind and acting a fool. No, what's the proper response for this situation? I think as I learned and as I matured, that became a valuable tool, is just that knowing adversity is going to happen every day. So how I respond is key.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. The response is incredible. I think for me, I always want to see what it is. Like the coach in me is like, what is the season, right? Because as a coach, we created adversity, right? Because we gotta toughen you up. We gotta get you prepared for the opponent. And so I think back to when I was a freshman, and I used to get so mad playing nose guard. Like, why are they double teaming me? I just want to make. Why are they double teaming me? And the coach was like, he said, son, if you don't get double teamed, you're not a good nose guard. Like if they could single block, you won't play for us. Then he also broke down like you're getting double, and it allows our linebackers to free. We're running a 3-4. It allows our inside linebackers to run. He said, and if you don't get this adversity, if they're single blocking you, you will not see the field. So like learning like, okay, there's a greater plan to this, and this plan is going to make me better at something, but it also is going to impact others as well. So I got a lot of analogies from being a nose guard and seeing a double team there.
Yeah. Well, let's break it down a little bit further. I want to break it down just a little bit further. So we'll do it as a player and as a coach.
Mm-hmm.
So, Ronald, I'll go to you as the player. So when dealing with adversity, things like any type of injuries or being benched or being cut, how do you deal with that type of adversity? What are some of the things that you did when you face those type of situations?
Well, you know, you learn for injuries, you learn to play through. Being benched, that messes with you mentally. And so for me, it was just knowing my creator, knowing that the Lord has bigger plans than just football, because, you know, we joke about it now. If I'm just totally honest, there were very few guys who I played with that was better and more productive at the running back position. Money played a big deal in that. But being cut, handling that adversity, it taught me so much about me. Because the first time I got cut, I was like, what? Cut? How in the world? What? For these boys? And so I was in a place where I needed to be humble, first of all. And so the Lord had to humble me and help me understand that, man, your life is bigger than this game. And so that just became the natural way that I handled the adversity of being cut, having to move, getting benched, is that I know that there's a greater good that's going to come out of all of this. You know, if it's nothing more than just a testimony to tell somebody, if you can make it through making it to the highest level as an athlete, and then one day being told that you're not good enough to do it anymore, if you can live on after that, you can handle anything. You know, and so just being able to know that God created me for so much more than just a game of football, gave me the ability to deal with and go through all of that, getting benched and getting cut and being told you're not good enough because, if you don't know who you are, it can rock your world.
Absolutely.
So as a coach, you're dealing with a player, that needs to be benched. Mm-hmm. You're dealing with your best player that just got injured, and knowing that it's going to be difficult to win that game. How do you deal with your players when these situations come through?
Yeah, the biggest thing for me was always communication. So if a player needs to get benched, they've known nobody's getting benched by surprise. It's, hey, it maybe do a week of preparation. I'll never forget, we had a playoff. We're getting ready for the playoffs, and our JV quarterback, we just threw him out at receiver just to see, and he was out there making plays. And I told everybody in the room, hey, look, y'all, I love y'all. We got to win these playoff games. So if y'all don't make plays, he's the first one going in. Or I tell my receivers, I have a couple receivers. I said, if you don't block, you don't get the ball. And if you don't get the ball, you're not on the field. So I always did that because I know from my experience how that felt. So I always want to communicate. Or if I had to pull them out during the game, hey, this is why. The effort's bad. I'm gonna let so-and-so get these next 2 series. Yeah. You got another chance. If the effort's still bad, you're coming out, or you missed the assignment, right? Now, when a star player goes down, that's the prep. And I was always big on. I learned this from Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll, he talked about when he was at USC, he had so many great players during that run that he would always spend time with the walk-ons and pre-game, pre-practice. He would talk to them and throw football with them. And so when an opportunity came where a Reggie Bush or Lindell White shoe comes off, right, or their helmet pops off, and you got to go to whoever's number 3, they have a relationship. They're used to. He would go himself to the player and say, hey, I believe in you, because of the relationships they built. The other thing, too, is like you got to be strategic with reps. I think for me, it would my coaches always wanted to get reps. And I know these guys, the great players want to get reps. And it's certain situations at practice where I'm like, hey, we're trying to keep tread off the tire. We know what you can do. I got to get the young bull in to get some practice reps, specifically against the one defense, so they can see the speed of the game. But I'll never forget it. It's been situations where, we lost 3 receivers in one game. We were 4 receiver offense. I was sitting there talking to one of the guys, like I knew he knew everything. And we were just like, hey, here's the deal. You got to do it. And he stepped up. But it's the belief. I always talk to him. I always challenge them to know every position, right? So even if you're an outside receiver or if you're whatever you are, I'm challenging you. What's the inside guy running? Why is he running it? Just so guys can be prepared. And that goes back to when I played. I had to know everything to get on the field. They wanted me to play middle linebacker. I could have done it. They wanted me to play safety. They'd have been out of their mind. But I would have known where to be. For me, it's always communication on both ends. Hey, this is why we're going to bench you. And hey, I believe in you and I'm preparing you. You're not getting the reps right now, but you never know when you get a chance to go in. So I like to start with communication. That's right. And then just giving them the execution plan.
Yeah. Speaking of communication, let's go here, man.
Yeah.
Who is the most influential person in your life, mentor, and what did they do for you? In regards to, it could be almost anybody, but primarily one that, is Christ-centered, and what advice did they give you and what did they do for you?
Outside of my father, gotcha. My father, very military. We're very disciplined. He taught me discipline, even in faith. The discipline in faith was huge. But I know, you know how it is when you're 17, 18, you start listening like, oh, Dad don't know what he's talking about, right? So as a pastor, Pastor Charles E. Perry in Houston, Texas, he did a really good job of like that 15 to 18 growing up. He challenged me, but he also affirmed me. And he just helped me see that it was possible to walk. I was one of them church babies. I was saved early, right? And so you hit high school and all your friends are doing all this stuff. And so he showed me like how I could be me, but also be a reflection of Christ, even down to the detail of how I was doing every day. So I know at that pivotal stage in my life, outside of my dad, it was Pastor Charles E. Perry, who just set a great example, was a great mentor for me. I even got a funny story. Funny story. I told my wife this the other day. One day I was driving around after school during the off period, and I just honestly felt like the Holy Spirit told me to go eat at this buffet. And I was like, hey, Lord, you know my finance. You know I ain't got no bread. And I just felt this peace about going to the buffet. And so I literally finished my meal and I'm like, all right, I'm ready to go wash dishes. I'm ready to go sweep the floors because I don't have any money. And Pastor Perry came in, he said hello to me, and he had a meeting with someone. And when I was getting ready to pay my check with the money I didn't know I had, the lady was like, hey, don't worry about it. He got you. I was like, who? She's like, that man over there. So he didn't even know. It's a funny story. When I told him, I was like, Pastor, I literally had no money. So it's great to see how the Holy Spirit directed me to my lunch and he paid for it. So I would have been watching a lot of dishes that night.
That's beautiful. You were at the buffet? Oh yeah, you definitely would have been putting in some work, man.
Yeah, they would have had me for about 8 hours.
Oh man, for me, it's definitely my father. For me, you know, he was probably the smartest, dumbest guy that I ever met in my life. On his own admission, he had a 5th grade education, but just the wisdom that he had from being a pastor and walking with the Lord, and there's some lessons that he taught me that I live by to this day, and they have become the pillar in everything my life is built on, from hard work to getting an education to taking care of my family, and most of all having a relationship with the Lord was the most. He never directly told me those things. He just modeled them for me. And so, you know, you more is caught than it is taught. And so just by him living and walking with the Lord, I saw what a man looks like that took care of his family, 10 kids and a wife, you know, as a pastor and a custodian, and raising hogs and stretching fence and chopping wood. He was the example, the ultimate example for me. And so, you know, just to be able to spend the 37 years that I spent with him on this earth has proved invaluable. Because like I said, the things that he taught me, I pass on to my son. And I know if he understands them, then his family's going to be okay. And if his son takes them, then their family's going to be okay. Which is originally how the gospel, or how, you know, Jesus spread his message, was through his disciples. And so my father discipled me as his son without even knowing I was being discipled. And so that was priceless for sure.
That's good. That's good. We definitely need those father figures, man, in the faith too. I mean, to have your own dad to be that person, because a lot of people don't get that opportunity. And then some people there's some people that didn't grow up in the church, so they don't have that example either. And then they get saved and they don't know what to do. So that's going to be a topic of mine pretty soon. Those people that come to Christ without having a father in their life, and they're all over the place. So how do you react to that? You know, so by your father being a demonstration of Christ, that helped you tremendously with your walk, whereas not everybody gets that opportunity. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I was so naive thinking that everybody was like me, you know, because I grew up in the 70s, and where I grew up in the country, all of us, our fathers were president. And so as I grew and left the nest, left my father's house, I discovered that not everybody is like me. A lot of people don't know what it's like to have a genuine relationship with their father and love him, and he love you and teach you and guide you. And so I was naive, man, because I thought everybody, that's the experience, but I was so wrong. And so that's one of the things that motivated me to get involved in the lives of so many young men. And so they would have an influence and an example to follow. So
that's good. That's good. That's good. Because then you had knuckleheads like me coming to Pitt State. Coming from I'm from a very diverse and, you know, kind of, I guess I came from a military town of Leavenworth. So I guess, Ed, you could understand that too, being a military brat, you know, but yeah, that's good. That's awesome. What are some of the things, how do you deal with temptation, or as a player? Let's go back to the playing days, or as a coach, how do you deal with any type of temptation? How did you deal with peer pressure that went along with that too?
I guess for me, you know, I always worried about what could go wrong. And so I was very careful with the choices that I made because, you know, for me, I was young. I had a family. I got married my second year out of college. And then a year later, my first child was born. So my responsibilities outweighed any silly choice that I could make. because I got too many people depending on me now. And I think that's one of the things that kept me away from a lot of temptation, because I'm sure you know temptation is on every hand. It's ever present. And so the people are always watching you. People are always looking to see how they can take advantage of you in a lot of cases. And so me being nervous and me being scared of messing up my family, not wanting to be the first dude that destroy, tear up everything. So I was really, really careful. But more than that, I had people around me praying for me. And that made all the difference in the world. And so temptation for me was in the small things, like the off season, gaining too much weight because I like Haagen-Dazs ice cream. And so how do I deal with that kind of temptation? Or when I did sign a bigger contract, wasting the money versus putting it to good use. Those things were always tempting. And even now, as an older pastor sitting here at 55 years old, the temptation is to water down and sugar down the message and preach the things that's popular versus preach what the Bible teaches us. And so temptation is always going to be there. But we have the obligation as believers to do what the sacred text tells us, and that's resist. Resist it. And the Lord gives us the fortitude, the ability to resist it, because we know in our spirit what's good and what's not good for us. And so I have become really good at resisting temptation. Not so much when it comes to food, because that's a true weakness of mine.
Yeah. Ooh, that's a different beast.
The food is a different one.
I started barbecuing. It wasn't no good barbecue when I moved back home. So I started doing it myself. And that has become the biggest Achilles heel ever, because I cook and eat just about every weekend. So I'm looking for a way to handle that temptation. But outside of that, man, I just try to resist.
Before you answer, I'll never forget, since you said a lot of that stuff, I'll never forget an interaction I had with you right after your rookie year. You came back to Pitt State to try to get your degree, right? After that season.
Yeah.
Isn't that right?
Yeah.
And I remember, I'll never forget it. I was talking to you at the Weed. We call it the Weed. It was a gym. It was where the basketball team played. They called it, you remember the Weed? It sounded funny, like, yeah, we're gonna go play at the Weed, right? We're gonna play a game at the Weed or pickup game, whatever. But I was sitting down in the pickup game. I was sitting right next to you. There's a couple things that happened. First of all, the first thing, I'll just throw this out before we get to the real story. I had this Dallas Cowboys. I was a Cowboys fan. I'm a Cowboys fan. So I had this Dallas Cowboys that had like a star, and like the star started here and it went down here. And I walked up to you and I said, "Hey man, can you sign my hat?" You told me this. You said, "Yeah, I'll sign it, Emmitt Smith." Like, you weren't going to give me your autograph, but you would sign it as long as it said Emmitt Smith. I was like, man, I was just messing with you, man. But you got me back. You got me. But another thing I do remember too, though, man, was you told me that semester, the same conversation, I think. Maybe it was a different one. I can't remember. But you said, man, Scoob, everybody called me Scoob back then. Scoob, hey man, people won't leave me alone.
Yeah.
You said there's people knocking at my door I don't know. Was that true? You're like,
yes.
like you had no privacy, man.
Yeah. None.
Yeah, that's wild, man.
How do these people figure out where I live? That's, sometimes a small town that's how they can trap you.
Man, look, Ed, it's a town of 19,000. They're gonna find you.
Yeah.
They're gonna find your people. They know your people. He was an alpha. Yeah, they know your people. They gonna find you.
Yeah.
But that was funny. That was a funny story. I'll never forget that, man.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, Ed, how do you deal with temptation, man, or peer pressure?
Yeah, the biggest thing my dad did for me was he would always tell us you could learn a lot from people's mistakes before you make your own. And so I just kind of got raised in watching people. He was big. He was big on judge a tree by its fruit. And so for me, and this is crazy, we're at this church and this pastor prophesied. He was like, "You're scared to get into trouble." I was like, "Absolutely." so
of course.
He like you. I was like, "Look, man, I do not like it." And my dad used to wear me out too. For you all who know it, getting worn out is. So I've always had but I love the way he did it because he always said, "Here's the goal." Like, here's the goal. I'll never forget. He told me something, and I had tried out for the football team at U of H, and I did a really good job at the walk-on tryout to the point where players thought I made the team and I didn't. And so I was talking to my dad, and he told me this. He said, "Ed, here's the deal. It don't matter if you play football. It don't matter if you're All-American, whatever. If you are a young man with a plan, they're going to come after you. Like, the women are going to come after you. If you got a plan, if you keep your head straight on." So he said, don't walk around there thinking just because you're not on a football team anymore, you're scot-free. And I just remember him saying that. And so I've always been very focused. And I've always just thought, like, what, because I've seen it too. I've seen coaches who have this great trajectory, and that one time they go to the bar, or that time they drink too much, or that time they had the intern in their office a little too long, right? And it's just like, man, it's not only their career, it's their family, it's their kids it's just so much. And so for me, I like it's John Lynch used to say when he hit somebody, he would try and he sees 7 people and try and hit the 7th person, right? All the way through them. So I see life as like, what's 7? This decision is 7. I'm getting better with food, so I'm with you on that. I'm starting to detox this week. But in life, what decision is that, right? And the temptation is, for me currently, as I'm building this company, the temptation is, you did it. Yeah, it's you. Yeah. Get back at some of the people who messed up my career. And I just try not to. But I'm very strategic. So, like, even when I used to travel, I was in my room. I used to like, they would always try and room me up with people. I was in my room. I was there. I got the Tony Dungy rule, right? Nothing good happens after 11 o'clock.
That's right.
Nothing. So there's a lot of things that just you got to put them there because, I mean, and Ronald said this. He's like, when I found out people were scheming, that's what got me. I was like, "Oh, you've been scheming this whole time?" Like, whoever it is, right? If it's because they said that there was I'll never forget this. Somebody said that there's player chasers on campuses, because I worked in college football, and they said there's whistle chasers. So there's young ladies that are chasing the coaching staff, and so you just got to be there. You got to have a guard up. And so, but I just don't like that pastor said, I don't like getting in trouble, but for me, it's just making the best decision. Honor my first of all, honor God and honor my wife and honor the marriage, because I want to have love my family, but I'm the only in my immediate family. I'm the only man who has not, who's been married, still continually. I see what it's done for my. When we go back to my hometown and how hard it is to get to my nieces and nephews because they're here. And so there are certain things I don't want to do. So
That's right.
That's cool, man. Well, maybe your family one day will get on the Family Feud. Hey, no, I'm just calling out.
I saw that. I did my research. I did my research. I know what you mean.
Hey, look, I need that link, by the way. I didn't get to see the episode. I need that link. Can I get that link? Can you send that to me? I want to see that episode. I was looking for it at one point, but I couldn't find it.
Man. We actually we won 3 and lost 1, so it's 4 episodes and we won there. But I'll send you the links. I got that. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, I gotta see that.
Some are willing.
So, hey, before we, what you say, Ed?
That's the some are willing and only a few are able.
All right, so hey, just to kind of close out a little bit, what advice would you give a young athlete or a talented athlete?
I think the same advice that my father gave me. Success is hard, failure is hard. Choose which one you want. Either way, it's gonna be a hard road. So choose your hard. If you really want to succeed, there's only one way. You gotta be focused. You gotta work. You gotta stay at it. If you want to fail, there's 1,000 ways to fail, but there's only one way to succeed. So choose your hard.
I like that. I like that. I would say count the cost. to get where you want to get. I know when I work with athletes in high school and even college, a lot of them don't want to lose friendships. A lot of them don't want to, I want to do this. Well, if you want to make it to the NFL, I've had conversations with players. You can make it to the NFL. Like, you are a 3rd round possible draft pick. But if you do these things and lock in your 1st round, which is life-changing money. And it's interesting. I was listening to John Maxwell's book today, and he was talking about, I can either help you or I can hurt you. I can help you get to your goal, or I can take you out of your goal. And he was like, what is this thing? He said, this thing is habits. It can either help you or it can hurt you. It was just like, man, like that was good for me to hear. But I just always want to tell athletes, like, this is a funny exercise. I used to hate when I said it, but I said, I want you to take a picture of the people who moved you into your dorm room. I want you to take a picture of the people who were at your graduation when you graduated, if you graduated while you're on campus. And I said, the third is I wanted you to take a picture of your draft party. And then I want you to start eliminating people from that draft party picture who weren't there when you moved in. Of course, they'll have friends, so your friends will probably be at your graduation. But we're eliminating, like, who helped you move in? Just being practical with these guys. But because the hardest thing for them to say is no. And you got to count. If you want to get where you got to get to, you're going to have to say a lot of no's.
That's right.
That's some good advice. Good sound advice, fellas. I definitely appreciate that. Once again, I appreciate both of you for joining me today and hopping on, man, and taking some of your time out to do that. So much appreciated once again I think I said that 3 times now, but each and every time I appreciate it even more. But
I appreciate it. I'm honored.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. Hey, listen, do you guys have anything that you want to say closing out? I'm going to give you guys the floor. Say what you want to say, and I'll kind of leave it at that. Ed, you want to start?
You said me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So big purpose of my book and everything I do is generational impact. And I'm thankful that Christ has used sports as opportunity to create generational impact in the lives of others. And so I think if you're a coach, if you're an athlete, if you're a parent, whoever you may be, do not underestimate the small beginnings, going back to the Bible, in sports, because it can have an impact on a lot of people. And I honestly believe sports is a tool that Jesus Christ uses to reach so many people. And so right. I would say continue sowing seeds in sports, be the best coach you can be the best player you can be. I remember one coach told us, he said, if Jesus was your teammate, his effort would be unreal. Like he would be the best player. They'd be watching all the film. Challenge people to be the best they can be as they're being used in sports.
Yeah, go get this.
Go get the book. Yeah, shameless plug.
Definitely. I'm definitely gonna get one. I think for me, it's just that you were created to have an impact. Being a country boy, I used to like to go to my grandfather's farm, and we would skip rocks across the pond. And every rock was different. Every rock was unique, but every one of them created a ripple. And the ripple would carry all the way across the pond. And so it doesn't make a difference if you're a big pebble, a small pebble, or a big rock or a small rock. You were created to create a ripple. So don't leave this earth without leaving your ripple.
Bars right there.
Bars. Rewrite my book.
That was good. Yeah. Yes, indeed. Ronald Moore, Ed Jones II, man. Appreciate you guys for the 10th time. I probably could say another 20, man. So this has been a good run tonight. So I appreciate. I'm thankful. I use another word. I'm thankful. Yeah. But it's been great, guys. Thank you so much.
Yep. Thank you.
All right.
Yes, indeed. Another Off the Grid. Come check us out. Hey, we got more episodes. If you haven't seen any past episodes, go to YouTube. Off the Grid ICE. Yeah, you can find us on YouTube, Facebook, all over the place. Go to indiescollective.com. You can join me in all the socials. You can even see me spit a bar to myself. Have y'all seen that, man? I got some new stuff, man. I got some new stuff.
You told me.
I saw.
Yeah. I put it out there on the World Wide Web. So if anybody wants to check it out, man, go do that. But again, man, I'll see you guys later. We might have to do this again in some capacity. So
Anytime, bro.
But I appreciate y'all for the 25th time, and I'm out. I'll see you guys later.
See you.
All right. Peace.